Welcome to I Woke Up Today. It's a pleasure having you. Thank you for coming back, or if it's the first time, it's a true honor. This is a show that we show up with purpose, with intention, and we do the best that we can to just make your life 1% better every time. Today, we're here with a
special guest.
With a very special guest that we have the pleasure of introducing, and we're going to talk about. Our thing is mental health, right?
Mental health.
But we're going to talk about. We want to give you some key pointers on things that you can do and experiences from a real life therapist that went, from correctional facilities to working in the private sector, and just, man, there's so much experience in this, so much knowledge to share. So we're going to talk about some really cool things, and we really hope that you enjoy it. But before we get into that, Gigi,
So Hector, since you got the stage here, what are you grateful for this morning?
I am grateful for yesterday, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yesterday we had a great moment, so we can talk a little bit about that later.
Okay.
But just know, guys, that every little thing is small or big, it's a win. And a lot of the things that you get, sometimes you take for granted.
Totally.
Because you think it's a given, right? It's just that, but it's a win. So, and I'll talk about my win yesterday, which is a major one. But that's what I'm grateful for.
And even if it's not a win, you learn from it.
Oh, yeah.
So you always got to see the bright side out of it.
What are you grateful for?
So I'm actually very grateful. I went for my run this morning, right on it's called the blue hour. So it's like 30 minutes to an hour right before the sun rises. And I was just like in my zone. And I'm thinking about today's podcast, like thinking, role playing in my head. And I'm so grateful for Dr. Javier. Like, it's very hard to trust someone, especially with like deep secrets, like what's in your mind, what you're going through. And he, honestly, I've been with him for, I think, 5 years or something like that. And just going through all those emotions and the tricks and trades of how to stay positive and how to get out of your head, he's really helped me so much. So I'm very grateful that I feel comfortable, because there's a lot of times that you're not comfortable talking about deep secrets, and it does take a while for you to open up. So I'm very grateful.
Very important, having that trust.
Thanks, yeah.
Well, that's
so
cool.
I'm excited.
And I hope you guys are practicing your responses when somebody asks you how you're doing today, right?
Yeah.
Because remember, grateful to be alive,
And
grateful for another day.
I woke up today.
So, our special guest is Dr. Javier Mouriz. No, he is not related to Miguel Mouriz. Pure coincidence. Pure coincidence. He is a therapist, extremely talented and very knowledgeable therapist, about 35 years of service. Thank you for that, because that's a big commitment to this profession. Dr. Mouriz specializes with the senior citizen community currently, but he works in prisons, guys, in the federal correction system.
Can't wait till we get
for
it.
28 years. Like, wow. Like, imagine the amount of things in 28 years that you can learn from that.
26.
26. My bad. I like numbers. I want to.
We just inflated them.
Of course, inflation. So thank you for joining us.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
Thank you.
What are you grateful for, Javier?
I'm grateful for my good life, my whole good life. Health, family. I'm happy. I'm happy to be in the United States.
Yeah.
Yes.
You're able to travel. You do a lot of traveling.
I'm in between travel right now.
That's amazing.
I traveled last week, and I'm traveling this weekend. And,
I love it.
So I'm in a great place and a great time in my life. I have, my family is healthy. I'm healthy. Our life is good.
That's beautiful.
I have good relationships with my friends my family members. So, I know that as you get older, I'm not going to live forever. One day all this ends. But for right now, I'm very happy.
And
a fulfilled life.
Yeah.
Yes.
Very, very fulfilling, meaningful. It's pretty good.
So, Dr. Javier, let's get in and talk to me a little bit. We'll share it to the world about your experience at the prison, federal prison. I'm dying. I love this.
Well, I think there's going to be a twist here that you're not going to expect.
I love it. Let's do it.
I could tell stories for so long that I've got to be a little quick about it, all right?
Yeah.
And when I was in graduate school, when I first had to pick a practicum experience, the practicum sites come to the school, like, the VA, the local counseling center, whatever, they come. Well, one of the places that came to the school to offer a practicum experience was the federal prison in Leavenworth, Kansas, because I was at the University of Kansas. And one of the cool things that they had to offer was they had a whole unit that had nothing but Cuban detainees.
Really?
Only Cubans. From the Mario boat lift, which I don't know if anybody here knows what that means.
No.
There was a time in 1980 when a certain group of Cubans were allowed to come into the country by Jimmy Carter. It was like in his last leg as the president, and they came from the port of Mariel in Cuba, so they call them Marielitos.
Okay.
Marielitos, and they got a bad name because Fidel Castro emptied out the prisons and the mental health institutions and threw them into that group. It's a long story, but bottom line, they got a funny name. In the Cuban community, Marielitos, but they were allowed in on a parole, meaning you come in, but if you mess up, you get detained indefinitely, no out date. So by the time I joined this whole thing, they had already burned down a couple of prisons. No. So they were a bad bunch, and they were and they were held very specifically in a lockdown unit in Leavenworth, Kansas, and when I got there's 350 of them, and
holy crap.
So when my future boss at the time, he was just a practicum guy. He said, I've got 350 Cubans, and I said, well, I'm Cuban, and imagine this in Kansas,
Yeah, in Kansas.
So I said, I want to go there, So I didn't. That's what got me started in the federal prison system. I just wanted an experience to do counseling with Latinos and Spanish. And the prison was a good site to go, and I didn't know I would be around for 26 more years of that.
And you went gun in.
Yeah.
You just went, woo!
That experience with me lasted 6 more years with the Cubans.
Yeah.
And then after that, I just joined the prison system, and I stayed longer. So.
Wow, that's such a cool story. I never knew that.
Yeah, that's how it got started. So I think I asked. I don't even remember the original question. How did this all start?
But it's cool because it's like, that one decision changed the entire life, right?
Oh, yeah.
That one thing you never thought. I just want to talk to my people.
I know. Yeah, I just thought here I'm in Kansas. I'll go, there aren't any other Cubans anywhere. I'll go to the prison.
I would think no Latinos there.
Zero. And so that was what started my career, basically in prison work, in the federal prison. Yeah.
That is so
very
cool.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about what patterns or traumas did you notice more often with inmates? Like, now you're in this career now, and it wasn't what you were looking to do, it wasn't what you were expecting. So what happened what did you learn from that?
Well, okay, one question: what patterns or traumas that I
noticed most often?
Yeah, that their life was quite different than my life.
Okay,
that's the main thing. I grew up in an intact home, mom and dad, even grandma, So if mom was not there, grandma was there.
Yeah.
Mom went to work, grandma was there. So I had all three of them all the time. I mean, I look back and I feel very fortunate. They didn't have vices, they didn't drink, they didn't smoke. They were pretty much squares,
right.
Boring squares. We went to church on Sunday. So when I look at that life, and then I start running into stories.
Because I feel like everyone has a story.
Yeah, everyone has a story.
And that's why they do the things they do, is they have a story that they started with.
But there are stories, the stories of these prisoners,
yeah,
were so remarkably sad. No normal life as we would call normal,
right.
Go home, eat dinner, play in the yard, come back, whatever. Nothing like that. It was just their surroundings were, violence, crime,
just a lack of order. Do you think like the structure, Like your home had a structure.
It was a routine. We eat dinner at this time. We go to on the weekend we go to church at this time.
Right.
I go to school every day. I mean, these kids didn't go to school. So, I was with a group of inmates one time. I had approximately 20 in the room, and I asked, how many of you finished high school? It was like 2,
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that's what I started to notice. To answer that part of the question, that what did you notice? That they were coming from a very difficult life, like almost like they were doomed from the beginning.
And that's like from like childhood, you think?
From childhood. From birth. They were doomed. Right? Like there was no happy, healthy environment.
Gotcha.
I would say in the majority of them, and I really mean like 90%.
Right.
And so that's one thing that struck me early on. And I know you had another part to that question, but I forgot it. Sorry.
Well, I want to talk about something real quick on that, is that they're not monsters, right? There's a point you realize these people aren't monsters. They're a product of life, of situations that they've gone through out of no fault of their own.
Exactly. That is one of the things that I walk away with after all these years. That's why I'm not very judgmental about anybody, because I just say, wow, if you raise a kid in Buckingham Palace, right? Yeah. No matter who they are, they're going to have manners. They're going to follow protocol, decorum. If you raise them under a bridge, and all they know is to fight for everything, and
fight for food, anything, just to survive that day.
You can take that same kid, raise them in Buckingham Palace, or raise them under a bridge. They're going to turn out quite different, but it's the same kid.
Yeah,
it's the same person. So that's why I have a lot of like tolerance for, when I run into difficult people, I go, man, you're only difficult. In my mind, I'm telling myself, you're only difficult because you didn't have much of a chance. You know? Like, so now you're difficult, but I'm going to give you a lot of room. I'm not going to, jump all over you.
Right,
for that,
exactly.
And now there's a lot of talk about generational curses, and I think that it's pretty cool that we're talking about this, because I'm a big believer in breaking any kind of generational trauma. Because my parents only did, and I had great parents, like not saying at all, amazing childhood, but they did the best that they could with the circumstances that they had. And their parents did the same, and so on and so forth. So if there's something that I would like to change about my upbringing, I have to change it so I don't pass it on to my daughter, right?
That's right.
So I think that this generation, we're very focused on that, very cognizant of generational trauma. And to me, that's a big deal. Like, how can I correct any generational trauma or change? Maybe not correct, but
staying on that topic, do you think sometimes you try to correct so hard on that child, that new child, like the new generation, that you kind of lose focus on what the purpose is?
Yeah.
Like, do you see that sometimes, or?
I know that happens. I mean, I work with the elderly population now.
Right.
There's probably a more appropriate term for that.
Senior citizens.
Senior citizens. There we go. But I know that parents can go too far.
Yeah.
To trying to see their kids live a better life than they live, they go too far, probably put too much pressure on them.
Yes.
That can definitely happen. I've seen that on a soccer field, or on when my kids were little. Yeah, parents pushing their kids to live a dream, that they want their kids to dream.
That they probably wanted.
Yeah.
But they're going to live it through their kids.
Yeah. And that's called hover parents, parents that make project out of their kids, and so there's that.
Right.
You can go too far with that. Or spoiling your kid, when you give them too much, just give them too much, and because you want them to have their best life, but you forget that they need some boundaries, some firmness as well. It's not all, you just can't make it all about them. And then the kid will run your life.
Yes.
Yeah. There's that.
Oh yeah.
And I'm going to get completely off topic here, but anyone that knows me knows how passionate about clean eating and everything that involves around that.
Yeah.
So, for example, my big thing is breaking the generational trauma in my family of how we eat. Right? My mom passed away from cancer, and I am 100% convinced that 99% of illnesses or diseases are food related, right?
Yep.
And it's about what you eat and how you eat and your eating habits.
Okay.
So I identify as general trauma is how we eat as a family. And it's what my biggest concern in my house, for example. Sugar just doesn't exist. There's no sugar in the house. Wow. You know, and my daughter lives just fine without sugar. And I actually get pretty upset when people give her sugar because you should ask me, you know? Mm-hmm. And there's no sugar in my house, but she knows how to eat fruits and dates and berries.
Which is more of the healthy sugars.
Correct.
Yes.
Which, you know, they're nature's sugar. And, you know, you give her a cake or something, she's like, I'm good, I don't want it.
Wow.
Which is
you know,
good.
because I believe that if we do it from the beginning correctly, you don't have to correct it later and go through therapy and all that. And so I am going to mess her up in some way. I know that's going to happen. But the things that I am aware of that I can do better and without making it a whole big deal. Right. You know, because it's just normal. This is how we eat in this house. Mm-hmm. You know, we focus on fats and having a balanced plate and protein and things like that. So, you know, that's the point that I'm looking at. But definitely we have to be very cautious of not putting our own.
But in your case, this sounds like really healthy and balanced.
Yeah, you know? I try because I am human, right? Yeah, I am human.
I mean, we were raised with arroz con.
And I love that. You know I love the arroz con.
But like, don't be taking my rice and beans away.
Exactly. Yeah. I was actually talking to somebody over lunch this weekend, and I was telling. So they were going to the parks, right? Mm-hmm. And the wife was going to take a fanny pack, but the husband's like, "I'm not wearing a fanny pack." And I was like, "Bro, I got 3 fanny packs. I rock them, all fanny packs. I was so comfortable with fanny pack." Mm-hmm. But then I was like, "Do the kids want? They have 2 sons. Do the kids want fanny pack?" Uh-huh. And he said, "No, my kid's not wearing a fanny pack." I'm like, "Don't put your shit on your kid.
Yeah,
that's your trauma. Do not transfer that to your kid." You know, because it's what we do. What is wrong with a fanny pack? But I know because he's Dominican like me. Yeah. And fanny pack, that makes you gay.
Yeah.
Like, what are you talking about? Or like wearing your jacket on your
wrist.
Makes you gay. Yeah, what are you talking about?
On your waist. Yeah.
But this is all our mindset from old school because I don't agree with it. But it's from back in the day. So those are the things that I always try and keep myself in check. Like, don't do that.
Yeah, we're all fighting those things, you know. I grew up with that kind of stuff. One of the reasons I'm not I'm Cuban and people say, "Well, you must know how to dance." I go, "Well, I should know how to dance." but when I was little, my dad told me, that you're dancing too much, and that's going to be like, that could be like
that category.
That category that you're trying to stay away from, And so that messed up my whole dancing.
And man, you could have done some good salsa y todo eso, like la vueltica.
No, that's like a robot.
Like,
Yeah, exactly.
That is so cool. Oh man.
So now getting back on track.
You got a little sidetrack.
But that was cool. That was cool. So, what is like the most psychologically complex case you have worked on? The one that just like marked you in a way that you're like, wow.
Okay, so there's a bunch of them because when in private practice, I don't run into the complex stuff so much. Honestly, it's healthy people that come in private practice. Mostly, it's healthy people to come to just refine some things about their lives. Okay. So you don't get the complex cases there.
Cough like me.
Exactly.
Get out of your head, Gigi.
Yeah. It's healthy people in general just trying to get better. Yeah. Okay, so that's not going to be there. But when I worked in the federal prison system, there was so much what we call pathology. Pathology is a fancy word for illness. Mental illness.
Okay.
Psychopathology, right? There's so much pathology, so much. And these people have been so scarred, like sexually abused, heavily sexually abused, been victims of serious crimes, like witnessed murders, witnessed all kinds of bad stuff. So you imagine like what that does to their minds, Right. So like there's a couple of cases that come to mind just to be dramatic. This is for the audience. This is how bad prison is. This in my whole career, I only came across one multiple personality disorder.
Okay.
Only one. Never any outside. Only in prison. This guy truly, in order to deal with whatever trauma he had in his life, his mind developed what used to be called multiple personalities. Now they call it something different. Same idea though.
Okay.
And so in order to cope with it, he had to be one person, then another person. But I walked by his cell one day and he was all tied up like with bed sheets that were ripped.
Yeah.
Tied up. He was tied up. He looked like he was in a spider's web.
Like he did that himself?
He tied himself up. And I was just a young 20-some-year-old, student, graduate student. And I said, what are you doing, man? Why are you tied up? And he had tied himself up completely, everything.
Wow.
Even his genitals, honestly, everything.
Oh, wow.
He was all tied up, even around his genitals, the string tied to the wall. Yeah, and he's tied up. And I go, what are you doing that for?
Happening.
Yeah, and he goes, well, this other guy comes in the night and beats me up. And it's true, he was beat up.
Oh,
but
shit.
Nobody was going in his cell.
Yeah.
It was himself.
He was beating himself up. And there was this thing about, he said, that's because, are you ready for this? It's because I ate the apple. The apple, which, is like sin.
It's going biblical, right?
Yeah.
Very biblical, I committed sins, I broke God's laws or something. So this guy was so, his mind was so damaged that he had actually another entity in him that would beat him up, physically beat him up.
Wow.
And then he would come back to himself and he would be all beat up. So there was, that's how bad trauma can be, that it splits you up like that, But then of course, other cases were just sad cases, like a guy that was a pedophile, but his pedophilia began because he was abused, and then he wanted. It's almost like there's this saying that the abused becomes the abuser,
Yeah, right.
So this guy, he had abused, like, on the record it said he had abused several hundred,
Wow.
boys, yeah, and he was so sick, he thought that his affection for the boys was good for them, because he loved them. But
because he wanted to protect them,
he wanted to protect them, and he wanted to love them, and he didn't see how perverted that was and how damaging that was. So that's the kind of like real pathology that you get into in prison, and then lastly, the most common pathology is the I'm justified in my crime kind of pathology, because I bring money home to the family. So it doesn't matter if I torture you or kill you or take from you, because I'm
providing.
I'm providing on this side. So that's a little twisted understanding of some kind of valor that you have, some kind of goodness that you have, like in the Tony Montana Scarface scene where he brings money home to his mother. And his mother says, I don't want your money, Tony. He thinks he's doing a good thing, but his mother knows that it was ill-gotten.
It's kind of like Pablo Escobar too. Like, I mean,
Same
Colombian,
thing.
and the same thing. Like, he provided for his family.
Yeah.
His mom protected all of that and wanted that.
And
so I could kind of see like
you see that, right? In the
traits.
community, certain members of the community thought he was a good guy.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So that's the most common pathology, like
Right.
this twisted sense of honor, you know. But mostly the sick stuff was that other stuff when you've been a real victim of trauma.
Yeah. Now, tell me, how did that make you feel? And do you think that there's healing for them? Do they take the steps, or do you think like...
In most cases, now here's what, you don't know this, but I worked in maximum security, like 25 of the 26 years, right? In maximum security, the people are so far down that road of crime, so far down the road.
There's no return.
It's difficult to say that they can change. But that's the minority of inmates. Most of them are in low classification or medium classification. Those people, the little bit I worked with them, they had a lot more hope. Like if you and I went to prison and we'd say, "Oh my God, I can't believe I did this." You know, we would probably want to change and be able to change. But repent and go, "I'll never do that again. I can't believe I did this to my family, to myself, blah 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 blah." But the average guy that I worked with in maximum security, they had so much of that criminal involvement that it would be like saying that you and I tomorrow are going to start robbing banks.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like nearly impossible.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, we're just not going to do that.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's like saying they tomorrow, those guys I work with are all of a sudden going to start, going to work every day at 8 in the morning. Like nearly impossible. Mm-hmm. It's just not something they've ever done. Is it possible? Yes. It's very possible.
Everything in life is possible, but it depends.
But it's the odds are stacked up against the subset that I worked with.
Now, going through all of that, and I mean, you were 26 years into this, and then now living your private practice.
Yeah.
How do you cope with you personally with all of that? How do you stay sane, mentally happy? Because you're constantly hearing negative shit.
Yeah, yeah.
How do you keep yourself positive?
That took a while to refine over time, but I started to enjoy the environment. I could find happiness in the environment.
Okay.
It's interesting. I started to, over time, not on day one. On day one, I was just scared.
Right.
And
It can be overwhelming.
yeah, impression. I was 24 years old when I walked into it.
Yeah.
So it was scary.
Yeah.
But as I got to near, at least halfway through my career, it was a place where I went and had fun every day.
Right.
It was fun. The inmates were 99% respectful to me, and they caused me no troubles. And I was able to joke and smoke and joke with them, so to speak. That's, I was smoking and joking throughout my whole career. I realized this is the big daycare is what it was.
Right, yeah, pretty much.
It was adult daycare. And all I did was go in and have fun with them, talk about football. If there was a good football game over the weekend. I just found a way with my coworkers and with the inmates to pass the time.
Yeah.
It was fun. I think you can make anything look easy like that, if you enjoy it, if you find a way to do it, anything can be fun and easy. So, I think my wife sometimes would be jealous of me, like, hey, like you're having fun at work. Like, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I'm in a maximum security prison, but I'm having fun because...
you're making a really tough situation to a really good outcome.
Yeah.
Like, the way I look, and like I said, running this morning, I was like, you have so many different perspectives. Like, knowing when you're talking to someone, listening, not judging them, but putting yourself in their situation, you have different views, and you understand why they're thinking and processing all of that. Like, that's your secret talent.
That is.
And I give it up to you.
and it takes I didn't really feel the whole time I was in there like I was judging them at all. I really understood them. Like, oh man, you didn't have a break.
Right.
Of course you're like this, Right. And I wasn't angry,
Right.
You had empathy, right?
Empathy. Yeah. It was easy to go in there and be that way.
So we could say that you found purpose in helping people and helping others heal, and that sympathetic ear, I think, was key.
Yeah.
We talk a lot about finding purpose and the things that are going to guide you through life. So you've been successful and happy, and you live right now. You're living the life that you built, that you dreamed.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you found greatness even in those dark moments, and because keeping healthy mentally yourself, you hear a lot of stories, you see a lot of things that can take a toll on a person, right?
It can, unless you, so to this idea of keeping it all in perspective. If I went in there and all I did was connect to the dark side of what that was, of what my career was, of what I worked in 2 federal prisons, the Leavenworth, Kansas, and here in Florida at Coleman. Coleman, by the way, is the largest federal prison complex in the country.
Oh, okay.
No one knows it. It's right here in the Villages.
Oh, shit.
All right.
It's in the Villages, everybody. But I think going in there and just keeping a positive perspective on the whole thing. Like, I really went in there to have fun,
Right.
So then you say, well, did it impact you? Did it cause you, some undue outcome, some burden? Yeah, it did for some people who went in there angry every day and they were only about authority and being in control. I just went in there to have fun.
It is what it is. I'm just gonna make the best out of it.
I did. Over time, that became the way. And I'm not saying it always, but I would say the last 50% of my career, I realized, man, I just gotta pace myself here and enjoy it. You know, pace myself, enjoy it. And I did. I really did. You're gonna ask my coworkers. We just had fun.
And I think that's a lot of good traits for in any career. Is that you really, really got to focus on what are the good things. Like, why do we do what we do? It's for our families. Families to get into homes that, especially immigrants and everything, because we come from that. And we want to give that opportunity. Like, I never knew I could own a home. Like, I told my mom, let's do this. Una locura. I'm like, let's go. Mete por ahí. Cabeza dura. And we got where we have multiple homes now. So we were very blessed. So awesome.
You're giving back, in a way that you needed help.
Right.
And I kind of, at least in my job, even though I said that I worked in a very tough crowd with a very tough crowd that didn't change a lot, but there was a positive impact of treating them with respect, because at least for the time that I treated them with respect, they were better citizens of the prison.
Right.
They weren't beating people up. They were trying.
It's even like you see them.
Somebody believed in them.
Yes.
It helped them, and you never know to this day, what impact. I stay in contact with 3 inmates. Only 3 in my whole career.
Right.
And they talk about it, what a great impact it was to be treated with respect and so forth.
That's amazing, because at least those 3 people, you changed their lives.
Yeah, they talk about it. They want to stay in contact.
That's awesome.
I love that.
Yeah. And the others, maybe they would have wanted to stay in contact or whatever, but these 3, I knew, 2 of them I knew for over 20 years, So, it's that. So that is why I did not burn out, probably because I had a meaningful job. It's important to have a meaningful job.
Meaningful. Okay. Oh, I love
meaningful. It gave me some purpose, It put food on the table. And I learned to make fun, not fun of it, have fun in it.
Have fun in it.
Yeah. Oh, man.
So I was actually listening to something about that. You talk about the job, and, if you don't love your job, then find a reason to love it. If you have to have that job, right, then find a reason to love it. It's because it gives you purpose, or you're helping others, or you provide for your family, because not all of us have the luxury of loving what we do.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, sometimes you have to kind of do something you don't really love, because that's the cards that are in the table right now. But find love into that and why you're doing it.
That's right.
That's key. If he, dealing with prisoners for 26 years, didn't lose his shit,
For real.
I think you can go to work and deal with the way that your boss talked to you this morning.
Exactly.
You'll be all right.
Yeah, you'll be fine.
Once you decide that.
What you
yes,
decide.
you have to decide that.
You have to decide that. It's a deliberate thing.
It's changing that switch in your brain and just like, come on.
I'm going to enjoy what I'm going to do. Even if I'm going to shovel horse poop, all day, I'm going to be good at it.
You're going to be the best of shoveling horse poop.
And I'm going to love it.
Yep, exactly.
It's like the book of Chop Wood, Carry Water. Have you read it?
No, I have not.
So if you please do.
Okay.
Because it talks about the discipline of focusing on the small tasks and the repetition and the positivity, like, and the outcome. And it's a lot more complex than that, but it's pretty cool. Recommend you read it too. But yeah, so we're in, it's pretty cool how, you and I are not licensed in anything except loans. But
that's a lot.
Officially.
But we have that positive mindset of making those decisions.
And the crazy thing is that we are therapists. When we speak to our clients and they're going through all this emotions, the stuff that they have to provide, they're like, can I just give you a blood sample? It's so much easier because you're getting really personal. Their finances, their bank statements, their whole life. Why did you do this? I'm like, listen, I'm not going to judge you. This is what it is. Yeah. This is how we're going to make it work. Now, if you're on board, we're going to execute. Yeah. So, and we got to talk them off the ledge, because I get clients, I had a Dominican that came. I was like, Hector, you're not leaving because I'm a little scared. He cussed me out. Wow. He was threatening me. I'm like, Hector, stay here. And I was like, he was just, ugh. Then he got here and was like so calm. Hector's like watching. I'm like, oh, shit. But at the end of the day, he still calls me to this day. He's like, thank you so much for what you do. I'm sorry I lashed out and everything like that.
It sounds like prison work.
It really is. It's just not there, you know. But
it's very emotional work.
It's
right?
It takes a toll on you mentally.
Well, people are going to buy a home, you know, especially if it's their first home.
Yes.
That's a big deal. Oof. That's a dream.
It is.
Most people only buy one.
It is.
Most people only buy one.
Yeah.
And it's probably the biggest purchase you'll make in your entire life.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem is you're making a business decision based on emotions. And that's a really bad combination.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, so it's very, very difficult. I was having this conversation with a couple this week that, you know, young couple, she's pregnant, you know, and it's first home and there's a lot of things involved.
There's a lot of emotions
I'm like, guys, you have to take these emotions out, and it's very hard, but you have to be practical right now and look at it from a financial point of view because it is the largest investment.
It is.
You know, and they're doing a very big down payment. Like, it's a lot of money, and you have a commitment, and
you work so hard for that down payment.
Oh yeah.
Like years and years life savings just to meet that one thing. So I get it. Like off topic.
That's how it is. We'll shift gears a little bit, but not, you know. Somebody that is going through something right now, not necessarily like some crazy trauma, or it could be heavy trauma, maybe something light, but just tools that people can use. We talked about a few tools just now, but tools that people can use on a daily basis to just make their life better, to improve their mental health, to just kind of stay sane. Yeah.
I think the number one thing that people can do for themselves, drum roll,
Nico effect,
is to go easy on yourself. Number one thing. People are so hard on themselves that they catastrophize their situation. They catastrophize their own thinking.
I'm having deja vu right now. Our sessions.
The number, okay, there you go. So, you know, I'm on topic.
Yeah.
The number one thing people can do for themselves, number one tool is to realize life is long. There's a lot of life, you know, left.
If you're lucky.
If you're lucky. If you're lucky, if you don't eat sugar. That potentially, you know, average life is in the 70s, right? For men and women, and you get into the 70s. So unless something befalls you, an accident or something, you die early, your life's going to make it into the 70s, let's just say, for the average person, and hopefully beyond. But if you get there, you know, so you're sitting here at 20, and something bad happened, you didn't get a job, you didn't get into this college, somebody left you, you know, a relationship ended, you know, you're going through a bankruptcy, a foreclosure. It just seems so bad to people, you know, you know, current events, you know, you're worried about, you know, an immigration status or something like that, you know. It's just know life is long. Life can be long, and
life keeps going.
Don't catastrophize your situation, because that adds a mental health problem on top of your problem.
And it shuts your body down.
Oh, yeah, completely. You can't think. You're going to get an autoimmune disorder. You know, you're gonna have a heart attack. Your gut's gonna go funny. You know, you're gonna break out in rashes. Whatever.
It's crazy how your body reacts to
your body and your mind are 100% the same.
Yeah,
it's the same thing. Whatever's going on in here is gonna play out in your body. Your blood pressure's gonna go up. Your kidneys are gonna go bad. You know. So I mean, I've experienced autoimmune disorder as a result of stress when I was young and I didn't know what I was doing. But now my number one goal is to be like calm, at peace, and realize whatever the problem is, it will find a resolution. You know, it will.
Well, you project a lot of peace, I'll tell you that. This is my first time meeting you, and you just
He's the best. I'm telling you, this is what
you're killing it, right? Because that's the vibe is that you're peace. You're like very zen.
Yeah.
So, you know, if this is your demeanor all day, like
I try
because it is. Trust me.
I try because otherwise I'm going to pay a price. I'm going to pay a price. You know, I'm going to pay a price. It's going to play out in my body somewhere, you know? So I try to like be at peace, try to be as happy as I can. That's if I'm wearing my thinking cap.
Okay. I know. Yeah.
Now, sometimes, you know, you're not wearing it and you're just running wild, but mostly I try to gather myself. Yeah. And that's what I just want people to hear. If you're going through something, try to back up. It's not as catastrophic as you think it is. And
but did you die?
Let me tell you a funny story really quick off topic. So I'm like, I text Dr. Javier. I'm like, good. I think it was like a good morning. I was like, hey, Dr. Javier. And he goes, hi. And and then I call in. I'm like, so I wanted to invite you to our podcast. He's like, oh, I thought you were calling me because you were in your head again. Yeah. I'm like, that too, as you know, that too. Yeah. But we're really like, there is something very special about you that it makes me feel like, and I'm like, okay, I'm just in my head because I'm going crazy. I know, and I remember you were telling me our last session too. This was like a year ago or something. Yeah. And you're like, Gigi, you know what you need to do. It's pretty much like, I'm firing you. You know what you need to do.
You came back with the same question.
Shit over and over. Yeah. You cannot change it. You can't change people. You literally can't. Yeah. You can try to cope with it and deal with it and try to make the best of it, but you're not like, about my mom. You can't change her. It is what it is.
So find peace.
So find peace with it. Just let her do what she's going to do. And I'm like, and I tell him, but I don't like it and I don't want to. He's like, well, it is what it is.
You're fighting something that you're just going to stress yourself out on. So, you know, I have a rock at the entrance of my, in the mulch bed next to my garage where I go into the house. And and the rock says, it's all good. Yeah. So you tell me what the last line is, right? There's 3 lines. Okay. It's all good. The good is good.
The bad is bad.
No,
the bad is good.
The bad is good. The bad is good. There you go. Which allows me to deal with the bad. Really? Like the bad's got to come too, you know.
Exactly.
The good and bad. You think your tire's never going to wear out in your car? One day you're going to have to buy tires. They're going to be $800.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, but that's on the good day.
That's on the good day. That's like $1,000 or whatever, you know. If you go to Walmart, you get the $400.
Right.
You know, but that's the idea. Don't catastrophize. It's all good. You know, the bad is baked
Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Javier, it's all good.
It's all good.
I love it. I love it.
It's all good. The bad is baked into the equation. Yeah. So you just got to deal with it, you know, and be okay with it, whatever the bad is, you know. And so that to me is a big deal. Don't catastrophize. Realize what's already baked into the equation. You're not going to have sunshine every day. Mm-hmm. And when it's a cloudy, rainy day, you just say,
you just got to deal with it.
I'm okay with that.
Find a good out of it. And just switching gears a little bit.
Yeah.
So, for a Latino, especially the men, this is a good question. Come on. How do you think, like, our generation, we were taught, and especially for men, not to go to therapy? Don't talk about your emotions. Don't do none of that. And you got to deal with it yourself. Like, I mean, I see it. I firsthand see that. And it's like you're trying to get things out of your partner or anything like that. Like, what advice do you give for that culture, the Latino men and stuff? Like,
okay. Well, I want to first start by saying it's not only Latino men.
Okay.
It's a lot of men. Okay. You know, across many cultures. What do you call it? Cultures. Yeah. Men are supposed to be, you know, tough, not talk about their feelings, and you know,
boys don't cry.
Boys don't cry. I mean, they say that to you know, Caucasian boys growing up in America.
That's true.
Boys don't cry. Clint Eastwood was a tough guy, you know.
Yeah.
As a role model, you know. Mm-hmm. But and it's that, and it's not only that. It's cultural. So it's gender.
Okay.
Boys in general are like, you know, don't talk about your feelings. Just be tough. Suck it up. You know, walk it off. That kind of stuff. And also, there's cultures. You know, cultural differences in some cultures. Mental health is not something you go to because you're considered crazy.
Right.
Yeah. Therapy was originally probably most associated with white waspy, white, Anglo-Saxon, Protestant, and verbal people. Therapy is a very verbal process. You have to be able to talk and think as you talk. And there's, some cultures that don't talk as much. They're very private. They don't share their inner struggles. Asian cultures, they're very private. Native American culture, they don't look you in the eye a lot of time.
Really?
They don't. If you interact with Native Americans, you'll notice they're not looking at you.
It's like disrespect or something.
Yeah, some kind of disrespect. In the majority American culture, we look each other in the eye when we talk. So there's a lot of cultures. Gender, definitely gender. Women are more verbal with each other and social. If you notice, women, when they stand around in a circle, they look at each other. Men kind of stand shoulder to shoulder and talk.
I did not notice that, but you are right.
Yeah, we just talk at each other like this.
Yeah, what's up?
Side to side.
What's up? You good?
But
Why are you looking at me?
I mean, I'm just generalizing and stereotyping, but you look at little girls in a playground, 10-year-old girls, you look at the playground, they're all sitting in a circle talking, and the guys are running back and forth playing basketball or something.
You're right.
They're not talking. So if you extend that into adulthood, what do men do? We talk through competition. We hey, you want to go play today? You want to hit me up? We'll go do this. But we sit at the bar, shoulder to shoulder, talk to each other, or whatever.
Yeah.
But so to say all that, then to say, wow, then to try to get a man to come into therapy, But I will say this, whether you go to therapy or not, it'll be helpful to everybody, to anybody, man, woman, anybody, any culture, to actually talk about what's going on with you, to somebody.
To somebody.
If you just have a best friend, if it's just going to be your golden doodle, it doesn't matter,
Exactly.
You got to talk about it. What happens is if you lock it in, if you lock what's going on in your life, your daily struggle that we all have, if you just lock it in and you don't share it with somebody, you are probably locking in some bad stuff and it needs to be freed up. So case in point, let's say military guys, they went out on patrol, they come back. Yeah. Let's say they don't know. They just shot into they're shooting into the bush or whatever. They don't know if they killed anybody or not. But they got fired upon. Yeah. Nobody died. But it's good for them to go back to that
memory?
No, back to where they live.
Oh, okay.
To the barracks.
Yeah.
Back to the barracks, back to the base and say, okay, guys, what happened out there today? Because you got to get that out.
Got to talk about it.
You got to talk about it. If there's a police shooting, cop kills somebody, they just go home. He doesn't tell his wife, or she doesn't tell her husband or whomever. Doesn't tell anybody at home that they just shot and killed somebody.
It just
sits there. It just sits there, and and it tortures you. So, bottom line, whether it's therapy, whatever you do, you should be talking about to somebody that you trust, whether it's your brother, your sister, your best friend, your neighbor.
Or even a stranger, because sometimes you're more open to talk to a stranger.
100%.
So they won't judge you.
That's right. And you got to talk about what's going on with you, because just releasing it a little bit helps out.
Yeah.
So, and talking about this, I don't know, Hector, do you kind of want to talk about what happened yesterday, the emotions you were going through with immigration and everything?
Yeah, well, I guess I owe it for my big gratitude moment. So, we're going through an immigration process for my wife, and we've been dealing with this for 2 years, right? And with everything going on with
the world,
with the country, you get worried, you get concerned, right? But I am, and I consider myself that I'm pretty in tune with my feminine side. I'm not like that macho ego, like I don't really care, but I am the sense of peace in my home, of security, since I am the provider, I am that patriarchal figure, and it's like I kind of provide the security comes from me, right? Like if I'm good, everything else is good, right? And so when I'm not good, it could be like, oh, something wrong.
But you don't like to show it.
I don't. No. And because I don't, like, my wife has to be one of the most in tune with her feeling persons I've ever met. And I don't want to overwhelm her. So one of the reasons I've actually calmed down as a human being is because of her, because I was always going 200 miles an hour. You think I'm going fast now? Before it was worse. So I've become more in tune and more calm, and I chill out because of her. For example, she doesn't like conflict. So before, my immediate reaction to everything was like, let's go in fight mode.
Yeah.
Right? Like, so now I don't fight. Now I think about it. I process. I analyze. And I owe these things to her because she's very in tune with her feelings, and I want to make sure that I don't affect her. Right? So when I'm thinking, we're going to this appointment, what if ICE is outside? Mind you, we have 0 violations of anything, like 100% by the book on everything we do. But you hear all the stories, which they're all stories, and I'm not an idiot. I read and investigate.
And sometimes the media inflates stuff.
But you know, the media does. So we always look at all those stories, and you see that somebody, they got picked up or deported, but there was something else behind that, right?
Yeah.
And usually that's the case. We even consulted with attorneys, and they're like, no, you're fine. But it's there because I'm here thinking, what happens if we go to this appointment and for whatever crazy reason, ICE is like, no, you're coming with us.
It could happen.
Yeah, it could happen. I can't control it. Yeah. But I had anxiety about it. But I didn't want to share this with her because I didn't want to give her. I don't think she's even really aware of this conversation right now.
Oh, shit.
I haven't even talked about it. But it was like, I don't want to give this. I don't want to let her know how I'm feeling because I'm going to then give anxiety to her because I'm the one that's supposed to be,
that figure, that protector.
Yeah.
And it's something that I can't control. There's nothing I can do about it. I already went to the attorney. I asked the attorney, do you need to come with me? She's like, no, you're good. And I'm like, but still. And I'm a man of faith. And all I could say is, God, we prayed so much. We even prayed right before we walked into the building. And it's like, you're in control. You're in control. And, I jokingly say, but I feel that way, that I'm God's favorite child because I get everything I want. I get it. I do. I get everything I want.
He's the golden child.
Exactly.
I am, and it's at his time, not at mine. At his time, I get everything I want, and I've learned that.
Yeah.
So when I go there, I'm thinking about, is she going to get deported? And if they tell me, you know what, no, she has to go back home, cool. I will go buy her a first-class ticket. Me and my daughter and her, we will go home and live very nice. No problem. And we'll deal with it later and figure it out.
Yeah.
But if they take this woman from me right now, I think I will go to jail too because I will kill somebody.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine her going through that because then I become empathetic towards her because I can't see women crying. I got a thing with that, and I just all these things.
No way! So when I called you for the other episode,
now you know.
Now I know.
But I deal with it. I've learned because again, she's very in tune with her feelings, so I have to see it sometimes. So it was a difficult moment for me walking through this because, again, I felt like this is my responsibility, right?
Yeah.
That's
a lot. That's a lot
job.
of weight.
This is my job. I'm supposed to, we moved here because I wanted to move here, and this is what we're doing, and she supported me in every way, and all these things. And what if they separate her from my daughter? And what am I going to do? And work? And all these things going through my head. Well, long story short, we have an amazing interview because God is so beautiful and amazing that He placed us with the person that was going to connect with us in a way. This officer did her job in a great way, but she did it in a human and kind way where it made us feel comfortable, where we were able to have a conversation with her and the energy was there. Yeah. And especially for Samantha, it wasn't like she can get boxed up if she feels like she can't talk to you.
She'll shut down.
She'll shut down. So it was pretty cool that, this is the person that was for us. And we had an amazing interview. And then when this lady, she's like, okay, well, we're all set. You're going to be getting your card 2 to 4 months and congratulations. I literally felt like the shoulder of the world just lifted. Like, wow, like, this is done.
And, but to go back to the idea of talking about it, it's good. I mean, we talked about it a little bit before we started the show. You talked about it now. So, that has a real healing, helpful, it's a helpful process. Because if you just kept all that in your head, you didn't share it with anybody, then you've got this stress in your head. Yeah. But sharing it releases it, So again, do you have to go to therapy? No. If it comes down to that, go. But sharing it with your coworkers like you did here, and people and it's very helpful, and that's what I would recommend to most people. You know, just share it with somebody. Share what's going on in your life.
Sharing is caring.
Sharing
It is. That's what Barney says. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. And you know, and I've been through therapy myself, and I think everybody should have a therapist in their life, because your parents, if you have good parents, they are your biggest advocate, and they're going to fight for you and defend you like nobody else. But the problem is that they're biased.
Yeah.
They don't always know what's best.
Right.
And that's a hard concept to understand, but sometimes they don't. But your therapist, his only job or her only job is for you to be successful.
That's it.
That's all they're there for. And they're a person that they're looking from a different perspective, right? They're looking things from a different point of view, and they can help you so much. So it's so important to talk to somebody. I've struggled because, believe it or not, my therapist died on my birthday.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Damn.
That was a big one.
Didn't you say you were so mad? Like, they never called me
I was
back
so
or something?
mad because it was a Friday, and like by Sunday, I was like, why hasn't he called me?
Oh man.
God, the
When's
man was
your
dead.
birthday?
Mine?
Yeah.
July 4th. Hey, you better laugh. Don't you dare.
Damn, I have a week.
So, you know, that was big, and I haven't honestly been able to reconnect with someone after that, because also it gets a little exhausting because this man already knew my mom, my dad, my siblings. It was just
knew
like
all the names.
No, he had actually met them. It was amazing. It was like,
It's the kind of like with you.
Oh, everybody.
Like, you're like, so how's Anthony? How's your mom? Like, damn. Like, after years and years, don't mean to cut you off, I'm sorry, but he'll know exactly the last conversation we had when
it's funny how that
stopped. I love
in.
that.
Yeah.
because you build a relationship,
you
right?
do.
Doesn't matter how much you try not to, you're going to build a relationship, because we're humans and we're looking for that basic human need of connection.
That's right.
And I think that's pretty cool. And therapy is something everybody should consider. So if you are even thinking about it, you know, look into it. Make a call, one appointment, one consult. All
Just
you can
to
do is
see.
win.
Yes.
All you can do is win from that. You know, it's an amazing, powerful tool. And, you know, and if you're not ready to take that step, then, you know,
Talk to a friend,
to a
someone
friend.
that you feel comfortable,
At
even
minimum.
a stranger.
At
Yeah,
minimum.
exactly.
minimum.
So we're here gonna start wrapping up and everything,
Okay.
because I know you
Well, it
gotta
goes
go.
by fast.
It does. It goes by fast. But every episode, we always ask our guests, especially, what is one thing that you want to go ahead and give to the audience, like something to take out of today's conversation? What's one thing that you would like to?
Can I repeat?
Of course.
Can it be a repeat?
Of course.
I think the most important thing to do for yourself, based on what I do for a living. You know?
Right.
Like if I was an architect, I guess I'd come up with something different.
Right.
You know? But as a psychologist, probably the best thing that you can do for yourself is to go easy on yourself. We're all just learning. You know, every day we're learning. We probably are better tomorrow than we are today.
There's no manual book.
There's no manual. We make the manual as we go. So whatever decisions you're making today, you know, probably 5 years from now, you'd make a better decision because you learned from today. So just go easy on yourself as you go. You know, go easy on yourself. That doesn't mean don't push yourself to be better. That doesn't mean don't work on your goals. But
Don't get lazy.
Don't get lazy. But push yourself. But go, but don't.
Pace yourself, maybe?
Yeah, pace yourself. Don't judge yourself, so harshly.
Be
as
kind.
You go. Be kind to yourself. I like that Adele song, go easy. Go, you know what I'm talking about? She goes, go easy, something like that. Anyways, it's just go easy on yourself as you go. Push yourself, but go easy on yourself. Give yourself a mental health out, an exit ramp from thinking that things are doomed, Just go easy. Hey, I've just learned in life that a lot of times what you think is a bad thing, it has a little present for you.
Yeah.
A little gift for you on the inside, something that you're going to learn from, something that actually is not as bad as you thought it was going to be. So at least currently in my life, that's one of the most important things. I
love that.
take it easy on myself.
Take it easy.
Because if I don't, bad things are going to happen.
Yeah, it's true.
I'm going to be angry, frustrated. I'm going to need some unhealthy outlet. So I just try to stay at peace with myself.
That's
Okay,
great.
that's very powerful and beautiful, and I think that's great advice.
Thank you.
The other day, someone asked me a question that was very powerful for me, and I decided I was going to ask to every person I interview.
Okay.
And he said, is there one person in your life that is not, that's accessible, it's not a mentor or a coach or anything, that gives you advice that you actually listen to? That one person that you shut up and open up and listen to. Do you have that one person?
Well, I've got 2 psychologist best friends.
Ooh,
Okay.
I like
Yeah.
Those are good people.
And they work with me in the prison. And if they ever tell me something to my face, that I need to hear, I will take heed of that. Yeah. Because they have my best interest in mind. They have my back. So if they ever have to tell me something and it is like something I don't want to hear,
right,
I need to pay attention to that. So I do have that.
I love it. That's a privilege.
Really it is. It
that's
really
a privilege because a lot of us don't. The answer to that question for me was my mom. I haven't, my mom passed away almost 4 years ago. And right now there's not that one person. So, it got me to thinking that, maybe I need to start opening up a little bit, and find that person. So, and it goes really well in tune with everything that you've mentioned and the tools that you've talked about. So I think that that's pretty cool. Thank you so much for sharing with us this time. And it's really been a great honor getting to know you and hearing. I could talk to you for days. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, likewise. It's been fun talking with the 2 of you.
Thank you.
It's been a nice experience.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that you answered, and we still have our friendship and our relationship, because we do.
Yeah,
we end up building a really
That's how
good
it goes.
friendship. Exactly. So thank you so much. At the end of every episode. Now, before we go there, make sure you subscribe, comment, notifications, hit that button. And I hope you liked this episode, because this was a really good one.
Yes, I think so. And if you have anything that you would like, we can have Dr. Javier back, hopefully. If you anything that's specific that you want to talk about, let us know. You know, we can go into that too. Because we're here to guide you guys, right? In the best way we can. We talk about the stuff that we deal with, but
and I'm sure we'll go ahead and give, you don't mind, we can give your information after every episode. If someone wants to reach out to you, they can always reach out to you. Yep. So thank you so much for this opportunity. And now at the end, we always go ahead and say,
I'm ready.
Wake up, show up, live up.
All right.